My mother's last words weren't about love or peace or even goodbye. She whispered, "The fifth key will kill you if you don't find it first." I thought it was grief talking until I unearthed the letter beneath her floorboards, the maps hidden in the cellar, and the man I once loved waiting in the shadows with blood on his hands. Now I'm chasing a secret buried beneath cathedrals, betrayal, and my own family name, and the only way out is through a vault that should have stayed sealed forever. My name is Ilara Winter. I never believed in inherited destinies or ghost stories, not even when my mother whispered about the fifth key as she lay dying. I chalked it up to the morphine until the day I returned to her crumbling house on the cliff and found the letter under the floorboards. That's where the story really begins, not with death, but with a secret long buried and a man I should never have trusted. The old manor she left behind felt like a body that had exhaled and never inhaled again. Dust hung like grief in the air. I hadn't stepped foot in this house in 11 years. Not since I ran off to university and swore never to return. The walls still smelled of old books and dried lavender. I found the letter on my second night there. A loose board beneath her writing desk creaked under my weight. I knelt down, pried it up with a kitchen knife, and there it was, an envelope yellowed with age, sealed with red wax in the shape of an hourglass. To Ilara, only when I am gone. The handwriting was hers, but the ink was fresher than it should have been. The letter inside was brief. Ilara, the truth is beneath your feet, literally and figuratively. The fifth key is real. Your father died for it. So might you. Do not trust Gabriel without proof. Start with the cellar. Mother Gabriel. I hadn't heard that name in years. I sat frozen. The letter crumpled in my hands. Gabriel Thorne had once been my mother's research assistant, then something more. He was charismatic, clever, and when I was 18 and stupid, I fell for him too. He disappeared the week my father died in what was called a hiking accident. I went down to the cellar that night. There was nothing extraordinary at first, just rows of old wine bottles, broken garden tools, and mildew climbing the stone walls. But one corner of the floor felt hollow when I tapped it. I pushed aside a rusted wheelbarrow and found a square slab of concrete, etched with faint writing, Astra non mentiunter. The stars do not lie. I couldn't move it with my bare hands, so I returned the next morning with a crowbar. Beneath it lay a metal box sealed tight, and inside maps, notes in my father's handwriting, and 5 iron keys on a single ring. Each one was engraved with a different symbol: a lion, a tree, a wave, a star, and an hourglass. The fifth key, my mother's obsession. I spent the next few days piecing things together. The notes mentioned a hidden chamber beneath the old church of St. Ignatius on the edge of town. A map showed star constellations, dates, and coordinates. This wasn't about inheritance or folklore, it was an archaeological mystery that had consumed both of my parents. That's when Gabriel appeared. I saw him through the cracked glass of the front window, standing in the overgrown garden with a bouquet of blue hyacinths. He hadn't aged much, just a few silver strands in his dark hair, a deeper shadow under his eyes. He smiled when he saw me, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Ilara," he said when I opened the door. "You're more like her than I expected. You read the will?" I asked. He nodded. "She left me a note too. Said you'd need help." I should have slammed the door, but something in me, curiosity, grief, loneliness, let him in. We sat in the kitchen where sunlight painted dust into golden clouds. I told him only what I wanted him to know: that I found a letter, that my mother mentioned the fifth key, that I suspected she meant something under the church. Gabriel listened carefully, his fingers tapping a slow rhythm on the table. "She always believed the fifth key opened the vault of the Alvarin Order," he said. "A secret society that protected relics from the Crusades. Most people think it's fiction. She didn't. She died for it," he said softly. We drove to the church the next morning. He still knew the back roads, still knew how to charm the sexton into giving us access to the archives. The map my father had drawn pointed to a spot in the catacombs, an area sealed off to the public for years. We entered through a cracked door behind the altar and descended into darkness, flashlights cutting through the air. The air grew colder. We passed shelves of old bones, forgotten saints, and a rusted gate covered in Latin inscriptions. My heart pounded. At the end of a narrow tunnel was a stone wall that didn't match the others. The masonry was newer, rougher. A single iron keyhole was embedded in the center. I took out the ring of keys and tried each one. The fifth hourglass fit. The wall groaned, then slid open. Inside was a chamber no larger than a wine cellar. The floor was covered in mosaic tiles of constellations, and in the center stood a pedestal with a leather-bound book and a broken locket. The locket was mine. I had lost it when I was 12. How did this get here? I whispered. Gabriel stepped forward, but I moved faster. I grabbed the book and backed away. The pages were filled with names, symbols, and transactions spanning centuries. The Alvaran order was real, and they were hiding something more than relics: gold, locations, names of politicians, all tied to something called the Argento Protocol. You knew about this, I said. That's why you left. That's why you were with my mother. Gabriel didn't deny it. He stepped closer, expression calm. I didn't hurt her. I loved her. But she didn't understand how dangerous this was. Did you kill my father? No, but I know who did. He offered his hand. If we work together, we can finish what your mother started. I stared at him, heart racing. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to run. But most of all, I wanted the truth. So I took his hand. But I kept the book. What I didn't know then was that I had just made a pact with the man who had betrayed me once and would betray me again, and this time, it would cost someone their life. I trusted Gabriel, but only as far as my fingertips. Beneath my palm, I could feel his pulse. Steady, controlled, but something inside me whispered that the rhythm wasn't human. It was tactical. We left the catacombs before dawn, silent as shadows. The book stayed wrapped in my jacket, close to my chest. As we emerged from the tunnel and the bell tower struck 5, Gabriel turned to me with that same soft voice that used to make my knees go weak. You understand now why they killed your father, don't you? I didn't answer. My father had been an archaeologist, not a spy. But the names in that book, the politicians, the transactions, the encrypted dates, all of it led to something global, buried in the bones of history and protected by blood. That night, I read every page of the book. My mother's handwriting appeared in the margins, notations, warnings, connections. And then one phrase repeated 4 times, each with a different date and set of coordinates: Vox Argento. The silver voice. One of those dates matched the day my father died. The next morning, I lied to Gabriel. I need a day, I told him, to process, to figure out what my next step is. Of course, he said, too quickly. I waited until he left the manor, then packed a bag, took the book, and drove toward the last set of coordinates marked with a star. They led me to a cliffside monastery long abandoned, nestled into the northern edge of the coastline. The wind howled like warnings as I climbed the crumbling steps, the book pressing against my side like a second heartbeat. The chapel was hollow, its roof caved in, its altar shattered. But behind the pulpit was a door that didn't belong. Stainless, steel, cold, untouched by time. I pulled out the 5th key, the hourglass, and fit it into a near-invisible groove in the center. It hissed, then clicked. Behind it, a spiral staircase descended into a hidden chamber. The air changed. I felt it immediately: the pressure, the stillness, the scent of ancient dust and newer secrets. When I reached the bottom, I found it, the vault, and in it files, artifacts, crates labeled in multiple languages. I opened one crate and saw what the order had been hiding. Not gold, not relics, but surveillance tapes, blackmail dossiers, and a massive cold storage unit filled with hard drives. Every political scandal of the last 3 decades had a thread here. Names matched the book. The Argento Protocol wasn't a hoax. It was a control mechanism, a secret economy of information. I should have turned and left, but I opened the final folder, and inside was a photograph: my father, younger, standing beside Gabriel. Not as strangers, as colleagues. I couldn't breathe. The file said, Operation Silvertongue. Field agents, Kent Winter, Gabriel Thorne. Status compromised. My father hadn't just been killed for discovering the truth. He had once protected it. I backed away, knees shaking, clutching the folder. When I heard it, the sharp click of shoes on stone. Gabriel stood at the top of the staircase. You weren't supposed to come here alone, he said, calm, unreadable. But you always did like breaking the rules. You lied to me, I said. No, I withheld. There's a difference. He walked down slowly, hands in his coat pockets. I worked with your father. We were tasked with maintaining the secrecy of the protocol. But he changed. He wanted out. He wanted to expose it. I didn't stop him, but I didn't help him either. I couldn't hold back. I lunged, shoving him against the wall, rage burning in my veins. He died alone on a mountain, his body shattered. My mother never stopped grieving. And you stood there, claiming you loved her. I did. That's why I left. To protect her. To protect you. You betrayed her. You used us. I tried to save you from this. He gestured. Around the vault. This is not treasure, Elara. It's a curse. Anyone who knows about this becomes a target. I raised the book between us. Then help me destroy it. He stared at me. For the first time, I saw hesitation in his eyes. A flicker of conscience or fear. I can't, he said. Then I will. I turned and ran out through the chapel ruins and into the storm. He didn't chase me. That night, I drove to a journalist. I once trusted a woman named Nadira Cruz, who had covered war crimes in the Balkans and once risked her life for a single photograph. I handed her the book and the folder. If I disappear, publish everything, I told her. Are you in danger? I don't know, I said, but I might be walking in my father's footsteps. And they ended in a grave. I returned to the manor. It feels colder now. The shadows are longer. The rooms are quieter. I packed a second copy of the notes, every scrap I could find, and placed them in a safety deposit box under a false name. Then I waited. Gabriel didn't call. He didn't show up, but 2 nights later, someone else did. A man in a tailored coat, his face obscured, appeared in the garden just after midnight. I saw him.